Hello, and welcome to the Off-Meta Umineko Read-Along Podcast, the weekly podcast where I guide my friends and first-time readers through my favorite story of all time, the highly acclaimed murder mystery visual novel Umineko When They Cry. We just finished Umineko Episode 2, Turn of the Golden Witch, so we're going to look back at the episode as a whole and take a look at some of community comments and theories. So join us as we open up this message bottle and see what interpretation of the tale lies within. I'm Kyle J, and joining me on our one-way trip to Rokkenjiima, we have our readers, James Capelli and Hayley. Welcome, y'all.
Hello.
Yeah. So how did you like Episode 2, Turn of the Golden Witch?
I see you didn't feel the need to say the witch's cat box this time.
Capelli!
Well, yeah, the message bottles have their own secret, things going on, so.
Because Hayley and I have cracked your little code.
Uh-huh.
Master manipulator man. We know what the cat box is. Hayley thought it would be so fun and cute, and it was, to be fair, to give a role on our Discord for people following the podcast called Sea Cat, the literal translation of Umineko. And it dawned on me, a cat box, the witch's box, such as her little playset of humans and furniture and witches on an island that seems to be locked in a state of reality or something. I'm figuring your shit out. I know what's going on here. I got all the answers.
Yes, the seagulls are the cats flying over the Rokkenjiima box.
Mm.
Hell yeah.
Which actually did get me to start thinking about, what their significance is.
Of the seagulls?
Yeah.
It's probably not anything.
So, the naming convention is copied from Higurashi, right, which is when the cicadas cry.
Overall, Chapter 2 was very brutal, very gruesome, in a story where hope seems to be very important for these people surviving. There was little to be found. It is weird to get attached to these characters and watch them go through very gruesome, I won't say ends, but just gruesome situations and things done to them. It's tough, man, to watch them get degraded, defiled, beaten down, crushed.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like this episode was a true roller coaster. It started out all calm and chill, and these two bland as shit people are on a date.
I mean, you're not wrong.
And boy, did it not end like that. Oh my god. I feel like there's more. There were more highs in. Maybe it's not in this episode.
Highs for who? Because Beatrice had a lot of highs.
Not for them, for me.
Yeah, Episode 1 didn't have enough Beatrice for my taste, personally, but...
Yeah.
And not enough collared battler as well.
Agreed.
Yeah, this one started, beyond the date scene, right? Even going into, the end of 2.2, where Battler has that win with Beatrice conceding her the first match or battle, whatever, with the key to the chapel and all that. And so it's all right, he's got some momentum, and it's just after that, no.
Yeah. He gets one win and then just gets crushed after that.
Yep.
Yeah, I kind of don't like him.
We'll talk
about it.
Yeah.
This is definitely a low point for Battler as a character, I would say. We'll get into it, but he's very repetitive. He doesn't really accomplish a lot this one. So we'll get into it.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, so a lot happened in this episode, and it's a very different kind of story than Episode 1 was. Whereas Episode 1 was more of a straight-up classical mystery story with a magical twist at the end, Episode 2 throws us into the deep end, both in terms of mystery and fantasy. It's an incredibly difficult episode, so we'll be going over its plot in broad strokes real quick as we try and figure out what all happened here. So Episode 2 opens with a flashback showing George and Shannon's relationship and its potential magical influences. We see how Shannon came to have feelings for George, and was tempted by the witch Beatrice to destroy a spiritual mirror in order to grant Beatrice the power needed to bring the couple together with her magic. Shannon and Beatrice become friends, but Kanon is suspicious of the witch. Shannon gives Kanon Beatrice's love charm, and he begins to have a fledgling relationship with Jessica. However, Kanon rejects Jessica and his feelings, as he feels that as furniture he has no right to them, and will only cause them both to suffer. Confronting Beatrice, she reveals that Shannon and George's relationship is likewise doomed, and enjoying their suffering was her true goal with them as well.
I really want to know... I mean, I honestly want to know more about what it means to be furniture, but I want to know what Kanon and Shannon and Genji's understanding, like, what do they... Like, what do they think it means, right? Why can they not be human? Why can they not have human emotions? Right? Is this just Kinzo being incredibly overbearing, which I could absolutely see? Or is this more of like, if you dive into emotions, you dive into love, and when you dive into love, your supernatural abilities and connections get all wonky?
So, Kanon says a lot of stuff about, like, you know, furniture can't love, and there's, like, a lot of talk about, like, to know love is to be human, and so as soon as they experience love, they are no longer furniture. It's unclear if that's, like, a furniture incapable of love, or they're not allowed to love. It's not entirely clear.
Because Shannon absolutely is in love, and we see her pull out some crazy magical, like, shield stuff, and sure, the mirror had something to do with that, but you can't amplify something that's not there at all.
Yeah.
And Beatrice even says that she's more powerful than Kanon is right now.
And Kanon is the one of the two of them that, tried to reject the love much more than Shannon did.
Yeah, it's just inconsistent. So
yeah, so someone is mistaken here.
Yeah. I want to know who it is. I want to know why.
If they were people before they became furniture, then I think their personalities of who they were largely influences their ability to push back on however it was that Kinzo wants them to be. But if they were just furniture and created at the age that they came to work for the house and for Kinzo...
Like homunculus?
Yeah.
Homunculi?
Which would be the plural. Then, yeah, there's something off there. The two things don't feel like they can be there at the same time. But this story is trying to teach us that maybe that's not the case. Things can be many things at once.
Right. And like many other things, we just need more context and information to make proper theories.
Yep.
On the first day of the family conference, we see Maria and Rosa on their train ride to the airport. Maria, who is obsessed with Halloween, makes a scene on the train, and Rosa blows up at her. They leave the train to avoid further attention, and once they make up with each other, Rosa buys Maria Halloween-themed candies for her to give out. We then learn a bit about the financial troubles of some of the elder siblings. Kraus has taken losses on many business ventures due to his lack of confidence in his business sense, pulling out just before the business begins to turn the corner. And Rudolph's company is being sued by an American company for copyright infringement, and is going to need to pay a large settlement or lose everything. In the mansion, Kumasawa tells Jessica about Rokkenjiima's history as Rokkenjiima, or Evil Appetite Island, and the evil spirits that were kept in check by the recently destroyed Tori Shrine. We then get introduced to the Meta World, from which Meta Battler and Meta Beatrice will watch and continue their fight over the existence of witches.
My thing that I keep coming back to is, like, I understand the whole theme and the point is Battler's like, I won't proclaim you a witch, I will reject you. But it's like, if she's not a witch, where the fuck are you, dude?
Yeah, that is one of, like, the major contentions of Umineko. You spend a lot of time being like, what's going on then? Like, what is, like, you're literally talking to a witch-like construct in a meta world. Battler justifies it, I believe, in the first episode, in episode 1, at the end of it, saying, like, you're a fictional construct created by the belief of others? At which point it's like,
that's a witch.
Is that really any different than a witch? Like, I don't know.
Isn't that fairies? Like, isn't that what Tinkerbell, like, runs on?
Yeah. I think the kind of base construction is that the meta world is somehow separate from the real world. It is just separate. You just have to accept that.
Yeah.
And that Battler is fighting for the reality of witches specifically on, like, that 2-day period of Rokkenjiima's, massacre.
Yeah. It's like one of those things where I'm just like, I'm not going to get picky about it, right? It's a fantasy story. Unless they do some twist at the end that's like, it was all in his head, or was it? And that's the ending of the game.
Please.
Which I think the
God.
ending of the game will leave it a little bit like ambiguous. Like it's very much this, but you could see it this way if you want to. I don't think they're gonna sell it one way or the other, straight and narrow. But I still think it'll be satisfying. Yeah, so I'm not like picky about it, right? But it's just like when people say they get a little frustrated with Battler, it's like these are the inconsistencies with his train of thought that leads me to think, yeah, come on, dude, what are you doing?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'd completely forgotten about that whole conversation with Kuwasama and Jessica. It feels like a lifetime ago.
Oh, for sure.
Like, this is what I'm saying about this whole episode being a complete roller coaster, right? Like,
yeah,
did this chill conversation even happen? But I mean, it did. I do recall it now that you've said it. But Evil Appetite Island is I'd miss that. That's great.
Mm-hmm.
Just literally eats you, spits you out.
Yeah. We actually have a comment from a reader here about that. Ash gave us a little translation or some knowledge about Japanese. Apparently, from Azuki or Adzuki, it's the red bean that is used for like a sweet red bean paste. So that's where that naming convention comes from.
Interesting. Oh.
And then it seems it got morphed over time to be Evil Appetite as like the phonetics of it shifted just slightly.
Huh. Okay, that's very cool. Man, I love that we have a Japanese fluent, I assume that they're fluent, reader.
They are not. They're learning Japanese, but they do look it up a lot, apparently.
Okay, well, I'm glad that they're on their Japanese learning journey so that they can share these things with us, because that's very cool. Those Azuki beans are ones that my grandma always likes to use in Jamaican rice and peas. They're the nicer flavour than other types of peas.
Skipping mini scenes from the first game that would presumably be the same, we find ourselves back in the Rose Garden, where Maria once again becomes obsessed with a withered rose. At Battler's request, Maria informs everyone about the history of Halloween and witches, which draws the ire of Rosa. While everyone else heads into the guest house, she keeps Maria in the Rose Garden to berate her further. When Rosa gets like this, Maria calls her the Bad Witch, and calls out for the good mama to return and save her. After destroying the Halloween candy she had bought for Maria, Rosa eventually leaves Maria alone in the Rose Garden, and Kanon comes to try and comfort her. In the mansion, the adult siblings gather to discuss Kenzo's inheritance. Kenzo refuses to come see them, much like last year. When the weather turns, Rosa remembers that Maria is in the Rose Garden and rushes out to get her. There she finds the witch Beatrice, who has taken physical form and appear on the game board this time. Beatrice uses her magic to repair the trampled Halloween candy and gives Maria and Rosa each an envelope. Maria's contains some kind of object, and Beatrice says that she should hold on to it until the time is right, and Rosa's is to be read aloud at dinner. Beatrice then heads into the mansion and is greeted by Genji, where she's also spotted by Kyrie. She retires to the VIP room, and Kanon brings her lunch. Beatrice torments Kanon with the fact that her arrival means the opening of the Golden Land is nigh. Normally this would be a joyous occasion for Furniture, as it means they will finally be allowed to rest, but for Shannon, who has come to know love, she will surely be tormented by the loss of George. Beatrice offers Kanon a deal, that if he begs and prostrates himself before her, she will pass over Shannon for the second Twilight, which Kanon begrudgingly accepts. However, later, when Shannon goes to deliver the witch's dinner, she rejects this offer. Shannon's decided to accept whatever fate has in store for her, and is grateful just for having been granted the opportunity to know love.
Man, Rosa's such a piece of shit.
I was happy to see Rosa, finally, my kid is out there in the rain, which, chapter 1, she didn't. It's like, bro. Oh, but yeah, she's a piece of shit. I'm trying to think of anything she's done that makes me like her.
Well, we'll get to it later. There's definitely some Rosa, some people who appreciate Rosa more than I would say that most of y'all do. So we'll talk a bit more about that when we get to the community theories.
Oh, really? Oh my god, I can't wait.
Mm-hmm.
Gonna get my George hatred energy flowing. Because it's definitely transferred.
Can't wait to argue with people on the internet who can't argue back.
Yeah.
They can, it's just delayed.
Very.
In the dining room, the existence of this mysterious guest calling herself Beatrice is brought up, and the resulting uproar causes the cousins and the servants to be kicked out of the dining room so the adults can continue arguing. In the gazebo, George proposes to Shannon, and this time she accepts immediately, saying that this isn't an engagement ring, but a true wedding ring. Later in the evening, all the adults have gathered in the chapel, where they meet with the witch Beatrice and admit that she is in fact a witch. In the morning, Rosa is brought to the chapel by Genji, as the other adults are missing, and a note Shannon found in the dining room pointed there. On the locked door, there's once again painted an eerie magic circle, and this time the words, Happy Halloween for Maria. Rosa remembers Maria's envelope, and inside it finds the key to the chapel. Using it to unlock the door, she finds inside the dead bodies of Kraus, Natsuhi, Eva, Hideyoshi, Rudolph, and Kyrie, all with their stomachs sliced open and filled with candy. The cousins eventually stumble across the scene, and they discover a letter from Beatrice laying out the terms of her game, as well as 3 gold ingots.
So, because this has just dawned on me, or maybe not, maybe somebody has planted this seed and it's a conversation I've already had, but did Rosa admit to Beatrice's existence in that conversation after dinner?
I don't think so.
I don't think so. I think she's one of the few people we see just gets kind of like the camera pans over her. We see that she's there, but she doesn't have any lines.
Yeah.
Right.
I think the only person that we see say it is, we obviously see Kyrie say you must be, and then I think Rudolph says, like, yes, we all have accepted this already. Right, and then they look at Kyrie and say, we'll accept you.
Kraus and Natsuhi say something.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering about first Twilight, the Massacre of the Six. Is it the people that say, I believe in Beatrice?
Yeah, we only have evidence for a few.
Yeah.
It's implied they all do, though, because Beatrice, like, harps on Kyrie that she has to say it.
Oh, right.
Well, then I think back to chapter 1. Oh, God, just, like, the Scorpion Charm saving Natsui, and then why would Goda have accepted it, right? So I guess, like, if he was still serving the adults as they were talking throughout the night, and something happened in the dining room when he was there, because we know that's where they died. I don't know. There's just like a whole lot of scenes that are just empty holes in the story that we would need to know.
Yeah, they're definitely deliberately not showing us some things. For some reason.
Mystery.
Like, we don't know why they're in the chapel in the first place.
Oh, yeah. Oh, goddamn, I hadn't... Yeah. Because they make a whole big deal about saying that was somewhere that they were basically forbidden to go, right?
Yeah. And, like, I'm thinking about why would they even have been moved from the dining room in chapter 1 into the shed? Right? If Beatrice's whole thing is to be grandiose and as entertaining and overdone, dramatic than necessary, I would think having the bodies displayed in the dining room, where they're presumably all killed, is much more interesting than just throwing them in the shed.
Maybe she wasn't as powerful in the first episode.
Then why move the bodies? They're already dead. Maybe it's something about the house is kind of warded off, at least for the first sacrifice?
Maybe.
I don't know.
We'll have to see as we see more episodes if that continues to be a thing. Jessica runs off to confront Beatrice, and Goda and Kanon run after her. Kanon gives Jessica his master key so she can enter the VIP room, but it is empty. A letter left by Beatrice mocks Jessica, and she collapses from her asthma. Goda leaves, and Kanon takes Jessica back to her room. Waiting outside, Kanon is confronted by Beatrice, who then attacks Jessica in her room. Kanon fights off the witch's butterflies and summoned goat-headed butlers with a manifested blade of energy. However, when Beatrice summons 2 of the 7 Sisters of Purgatory, he and Jessica are quickly killed. Using her magic, Beatrice causes Kanon's corpse to vanish from the room. Leaving the chapel, George, Battler, and Rosa discuss the magic circle on the door and the inscription in the archway above it. Rosa finally realizes that with the key to the chapel in Maria's handbag this whole time, the deaths in the chapel are a locked room murder. In the meta world, Battler complains that there isn't enough information to theorize, and so Beatrice creates the Red Truth. Any statement she makes in red is simply the truth, and she has no responsibility to prove it. She and Battler spar back and forth with him postulating theories and her striking them down with red. Eventually, Battler hits upon the idea that someone took the key to the chapel out of Maria's handbag and used it to lock the chapel door, and then returned it, which Beatrice seems to have no answer for, and resigns the point. Everyone returns to the parlor, and Rosa heads to Kenzo's study, accidentally carrying a golden butterfly passenger. When she returns, she brings Genji, Shannon, and a gun. Realizing that Jessica and Kanon are in danger, they head to Jessica's room together as Rosa warns that this is a wolves and sheep puzzle. There they find Jessica dead and no sign of Kanon. With Jessica's key inside the room, only a master key could have been used to lock the door, so Rosa suspects the servants, specifically Kanon himself. The spirits of Jessica and Kanon appear and lament Kanon being blamed. Battler fights back against Rosa's claim, and with Kanon's master key being found in Jessica's body, he is able to somewhat exonerate him. However, in the meta world, Beatrice lays out a series of red truths that don't leave Battler with much option but to suspect someone carrying a master key. However, Battler refuses to suspect any of his family or the servants.
Is there a reason why he kind of like doesn't harp on the 19th person? Right? Like, I know like that was a whole thing in chapter 1 because she never showed herself. Mm-hmm. But since she shows herself immediately this time around, that's just not a valid argument anymore?
He still wants to prove that it's her, but in this instance, he kind of gets locked into the fact that it seems like only someone with a master key could open this door, and because only the servants carry the master keys, a human Beatrice is not a valid culprit in this particular case.
Mm-hmm.
Does Kinzo have a master key?
Not according to the red truth.
Yeah, I was gonna say, according to the red letters, no.
Although why he wouldn't, I don't know. But
yeah.
I guess like if he did something that, because we already know the red truth as whatever Beatrice believes to be true. So if Kinzo has some way to open those doors via magic, and by magic I mean something that Beatrice would define as magic herself.
Okay.
Maybe that's just like another red truth loophole where Kinzo, I guess, presents some sort of loophole. I said loophole too many times. I also had to crack up the fact that you mentioned that they show up with a gun, like the gun is a character.
Right.
Yeah.
It feels like it is in some ways.
I want to get into that later.
Oh, okay.
I don't think the gun. I don't think the gun is a character. I'm going to say that now. But I think there is significance to it.
I'm so excited when Gun shows up in episode 3 as a magical girl.
Oh, Gun, you kill me. Gun is going to be Battler's furniture and just blow Beatrice away.
Yeah. Returning to the parlor, Rosa has the servants and Dr. Nanjo go to the kitchen so that she can share her wolves and sheep puzzle theory with Battler and George. In the kitchen, the servants are startled by the sudden appearance of a badly injured Kanon. Kanon says that Rosa killed Jessica, and they take him to the servant room to get first aid. However, Kanon suddenly begins acting strangely and playing with his deadly wound in a disturbing way. When Shannon approaches him with a spiderweb that she had left to gather, Kanon kills Dr. Nanjo and Kumasawa in an instant. Genji, Goda, and Shannon then work together to stop Kanon, who scatters into golden butterflies, leaving Goda stunned. The surviving servants return to the parlor and attempt to explain what happened, but are unable to find the right words. Rosa has everyone go to the servant room to verify the deaths, but when they arrive, they find no bodies. Only another envelope from the witch containing Kanon and Kumasawa's master keys. In the meta world, Beatrice once again lays down a barrage of red truths that leaves Battler with no other option but to suspect his loved ones. Back on the game board, Rosa accuses the servants of being wolves. They all turn over their master keys to Rosa, who now has all 5, and leave for the kitchen along with George. In the kitchen, George finally gets the full story from Shannon, and they decide to go find a spiritual mirror that Natsuhi supposedly kept in her room. Genji says that he must stay in case Kinzo calls on him, and the rest head to the chapel to retrieve the key to Natsuhi's room from her corpse. Rosa, Maria, and Battler have barricaded themselves in the parlor, and Battler and Maria attempt to solve the epitaph to no avail. Battler starts to wonder about Beatrice's motives and the ineffectiveness of chessboard thinking against such an opponent. Meta Beatrice appears and speaks about the nature of promises. In the chapel, George, Shannon, and Goda break in to retrieve Natsuhi's key, but are suddenly attacked by Beatrice and her horde of golden butterflies. They manage to flee to Natsuhi's room, and they find the spiritual mirror, but are attacked by Beatrice and her goat-headed manservants. Goda is killed, but Shannon manages to fend off the witch's furniture using a magical barrier empowered by the spiritual mirror. Beatrice tries to mock Shannon over her unfulfilled love, but Shannon turns it around on Beatrice. Infuriated, Beatrice crushes George and Shannon with pure malice. While roaming the mansion, performing his servant duties, Genji discovers the bodies of Kumasawa and Dr. Nanjo in the courtyard. He informs Rosa, and she takes Battler and Maria with her to verify their deaths, after checking the room one last time. In the courtyard, they find Dr. Nanjo and Kumasawa with their throats cut and stakes in them indicating that they are the 7th and 8th Twilights. Genji states that George, Shannon, and Goda had left for Natsuhi's room hours ago, and everyone rushes there. The door is once again locked and has to be unlocked with one of Rosa's master keys. Inside, they find George, Shannon, and Goda dead with stakes for the 4th through 6th Twilights, as well as the key to Natsuhi's room, making this another locked room murder. When they do return to the parlor, Battler finds another witch's letter, and as a result, Rosa accuses him of planting it as a wolf. She says that since Battler hasn't been seen for 6 years, it's possible that he isn't even the real Ushirime Battler at all. Battler accuses her of giving access to the master keys to the culprit, and he breaks down, not wanting to have to keep suspecting his family.
There's a couple things in that, and maybe you're going to cut them in elsewhere as I speak about these, but it dawned on me that we don't really see any kind of resolution to George finding out that he might have been magically manipulated.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of their whole relationship kind of reminds me of like those teen coming of age romance movies where it's like, you know, somebody's dared to date somebody in high school and then they find out it's dead, but actually I fell for you anyway. Wait, what am I? I'm describing 10 things I hate about you. I think. And like there's always an argument and like it's toxic shit, right? Basically. So if Shannon has been the toxic one, like George doesn't really have time to come to terms with that. Man, am I feeling sympathy for George?
Oh, wow. And Kyle and I are the only ones here to see it.
Yeah, I'm going to cut that out and save it just for the Patreon, so...
Yeah, that just dawned on me while you were going through that. Sorry.
I mean, George says that he doesn't believe any of the magic stuff. Shannon has said, apparently, that she thinks that they were brought together through some kind of magical means, and he's just like, whatever. I don't believe in that, so...
If he was Battler, he'd have been like, titties.
He would have been like, no, the magic doesn't exist, but also tits.
In a way, George is kind of saying that the magic doesn't exist. I just love you.
Yeah, I guess.
Not that he would know.
You know, George's love for Shannon is a devil's proof, right? The only way to know for sure is if he says that, oh, I actually don't love you, and that was magic. Otherwise, there's no way to know for sure.
Mm-hmm. Having been banished from the parlor, Battler drinks in the dining room. Genji arrives and brings him to Kindo's study, where he finds Kindo and Beatrice playing chess surrounded by golden butterflies. Beatrice offers to answer any of Battler's questions if he agrees to become her furniture, and he agrees. In the closing scroll, we learn that Beatrice told Battler everything, and he admitted that she exists. Afterwards, Beatrice attends a banquet of goat-headed nobles, leading Battler around on a leash as her furniture. In attendance are various witches such as Castle and Lambda Delta, and other demons who devour Kinzo and Battler when the Golden Land opens. In the Rose Garden, Rosa flees from golden butterflies and goat attendants with Maria and one of the golden ingots from the chapel. Rosa fights off several goats, but eventually the two of them are overwhelmed. So this is a scene that one of our commenters, the Great Detective Knows, was surprised that we didn't talk about more. So I'll give it a moment to kind of talk about it / address why maybe we don't feel as affected by it as they were. They say that they really appreciate the line, "There's only one mama in this world," and they feel like that's one of like the most important like moments in episode 2.
Yeah, I acknowledged that in my notes, but I didn't actually feel any need to talk about it. I don't know. And I think it's maybe because I don't want to give Rosa more oxygen than she deserves, which is 0. But I actually did really like the scene, and I think my only comment in the podcast was that she almost redeemed herself here.
Yes, yeah.
Very, very almost did. But the relationship dynamic between them, oh man, I just felt even more deeply hurt for Maria for the things that she said there about her relationship with her mother. Like, I only have one, and unfortunately it's you. Is kind of where that would end up as Maria gets older is kind of where I was seeing that. Like, you can see that being a really one of those situations where you just have to go no contact with your parent because they are just bad for you to be around. So it was heartbreaking, that scene was.
I feel like a lot of the nuance of Maria as a character is dampened by the fact that she is only 9.
Yeah.
Right? Not to discredit, not to say it's not impactful what she says or how she feels, but you go from the swings of like that sort of comment, that sort of moment, to the oohs and just the acting like a kid, right? Which is a result of trauma in childhood. So For me, I didn't talk about this scene so much because I feel like it's just overshadowed by the scene right before it, with Battler and Kinzo getting devoured, and we see Lambda Delta there and everything. And it just I don't know. I don't really feel like Rosa did much to redeem herself. It's the same old song and dance.
Yeah, that's kind of the way I viewed it.
Oh, I did this thing. I'm so sorry. Oh my goodness. But it's like, if you weren't greedy for the gold and thought about just primarily saving your kid, maybe you would have escaped. I don't think it would have happened either way, but to have seen the gold and then deny it and then flee would have been more redeeming in my eyes.
It's very similar to the same pattern we saw earlier, like on the train, right? She abuses Maria.
Yeah.
Maria makes her break out of that. Maria forgives her, and then Rosa does some grand gesture to make up for it. And then the cycle repeats.
Love bomb.
There's no real reason to believe this is any different, right? We haven't seen...
There's no accountability.
Yeah. It also doesn't help that Maria, as a character, has been very functional this episode, right? She's either creepy or comforting Battler. She didn't have like an introspective moment to think about, oh, Mama is both the good witch and the bad witch. Like, that line doesn't have a build up to it, right? There's no reason to believe that that's really she's like reconciled something within herself. It's really no more meaningful than any other statement she's made in reconciliation with her mother at that point. So I feel like it's not really earned in the way that I think the moment kind of wants it to be. It wants it to be like, oh, they finally come together. It's like, yeah, but they reconcile all the time, and then they break up again because there's still underlying toxic stuff there they've not addressed.
I don't think I saw it as a reconciliation as much as, and maybe this is because I like Maria a lot more than most people do. So I pay more attention to her, but it didn't seem like a reconciliation, more of Maria acknowledging how she has always felt about her mother, that she, that there's always good mom and bad mom, and like, this is just the way it is kind of thing. Like, it's just her vocalizing that for me. It didn't feel like it needed any sort of build up or pretext, and it didn't feel like a reconciliation at all, because I think that's why it broke my heart so much, because it did just seem like Maria was putting to words to her own mother how her mother makes her feel. And I don't think that she has done that in any of the prior scenes where they've had their fallouts. Like, Maria hasn't like said it as it is kind of thing. So
yeah, this is definitely Maria's best scene in the story so far, in my opinion. Well, second best scene. I think the best scene for her is near the end of chapter 1, where she's just sitting in the corner cosplaying the Blair Witch Project. That is still the creepiest scene in the story so far for me. But as far as like actual character development and character depth, this is Maria's best scene in my opinion.
Yeah. But it also cut deep.
So I do like it for that, but I just need Maria to grow up a little bit to enjoy the character in the story more, and I don't think the story's going that way. It could. I could see some ways that it could do that, but I don't know. I guess you do have the message bottle at the end of chapter 1. Ooh, we didn't get a message bottle at the end of chapter 2.
True.
You know why? Because Maria's baked into apple pie.
Delicious. I think an additional point to why that moment touched me, and why I said that Rosa almost redeemed herself, was because she actually admitted, and she hasn't admitted this before, that she has never put Maria first. That she's always trying to get Maria to fit into this shitty little box that she's made just for the sake of her own appearance, and doesn't really care about what Maria's needs are. She, again, like, actually said that out loud, and it's like, oh, so you do know that you're being terrible. It's not...
Well, she clearly didn't want to be a mother.
Yeah, oh, definitely.
And she lost a lot of freedom, and I probably felt like escaping her family after all that she went through as being the youngest sibling in this very toxic household, to lose that freedom, and the father is nowhere to be found, you feel very trapped. Like, those are all emotions I can empathize with.
Yeah.
But just to take your toxicity out on someone else, like, again, just get these people therapy, and they're not bad people, but they are so defined by the trauma they went through.
Yeah.
It's so hard to see.
And I do wonder if Maria and Rosa had survived this, if this would actually be the start of Rosa maybe wanting to seek help, because it is the first time she says out loud that I'm actually really shit to you, right?
Yeah.
Like, you literally are not my priority.
I mean, the first time she sought help, she got a witch feeding her, her own siblings, so.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, that's kind of the hard part, is every time the game resets, is all that character development is gone. Or, I mean, is it? I don't know. I hope not. Like, I hope that there's, like, a culmination of what they've been through and learned and how they've grown as people. I feel like that makes a more interesting story rather than resetting to the difficult times.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. I can't wait to have read through all of this. But honestly, with the amount that we are reading each week, and then we put a lot into one episode, it would take us years if we were gonna reduce the amount we read so that we could touch on every little scene in massive detail.
No, but I'm glad that if someone has strong feelings about a scene, they were able to reach out to us and say, like, hey, can you focus on this? Absolutely. Anytime.
Definitely. Love to.
In the tea party, Beatrice pretends to be offering Rosa a wish to heal her heart from the damages of growing up with Kraus, Eva, and Rudolph as older siblings. However, this is merely a pretense to torture Rosa into submission. We get some fantastic descriptions of horror and gore, and eventually Rosa gives in. However, Beatrice's perfect victory is short-lived as Battler suddenly appears. Seeing Beatrice torture Rosa has reinvigorated his fighting spirit, and he is once again determined to defeat the witch. In the question mark segment, we see Berncastle confronting Beatrice about running an unfair game. Beatrice turns it around on Berncastle for betting against Beatrice's victory. Great Witch Lambda Delta appears and says that she has come to take revenge on Berncastle for her previous loss, and is thus teaming up with Beatrice. Both Berncastle and Lambda Delta give Battler advice that Beatrice plays around a lot in her games, and often doesn't take the best move. While this makes her difficult to predict, it does give Battler a chance to snatch victory from the jaws of defeat. And that is episode 2.
I think it's curious we don't see Rosa react to Battler showing up randomly. I guess she's in trauma. She's in shock.
Yeah, once Battler shows up, she just kind of isn't there, right?
Yeah.
Basically, yeah. You didn't mention anything about Maria being sent off to be cooked, and that's Rosa's anguish, which I think is interesting that Maria's reward for entering the Golden Land was the return of her mother's love, which is to just truly be completely besought with horror as what's going to happen to your kid. That's just... they're not good rewards for the Golden Land. That's what I gotta say. It really felt like in chapter 1, the tea party scene felt like, oh, you're all here and it's great and everything. Don't you want to stay? And that pretense is just gone.
Mm-hmm.
And when Rosa admits that she believes that Beatrice exists, Beatrice is like, what's the word I want to look for here? She is
giddy.
God, more than that, right? She's in
exultant
bliss. She is exultant. She's euphoric.
Euphoric's probably a good one, yeah.
Yeah.
You know, like it gives her sustenance. Like it like it's like, finally. And that could either be a magical thing, or that is just how sick and twisted she is. Mm-hmm. And I don't know which one.
Why not both?
Yeah.
Yeah, man. This episode ended like this.
Oh, it was brutal. It was tough to get through at certain points.
Complete the roller coaster. This is the big drop.
That's so good.
Yeah, it really was so good. It was so visceral.
When I get into anything horror genre, like, this is the stuff that I really, pun intended, sink my teeth into. Because it's just like... It's the existential crisis of it all. It's just the absolute understanding of what a character, like how they are going through dread, is just dripping with themes and just there's just so much to it about people This story is doing a really good job as presenting people as real people and introducing a magical or fantasy element in such a way that it just doesn't feel forced. And I think that's a big reason why I'm enjoying it a lot so far.
I really don't know why I'm enjoying it as much as I am. I'm finding it funnier than I thought I would, and I don't know if I'm supposed to find it funny.
Oh, the author is very clever in certain ways, which I enjoy.
There's some of the horror is so I did say on last week's episode that some of the horror does just make me laugh because it's like, holy shit, this is so gross. Like, I don't know, it's a safety mechanism, I guess, but some of it I'm actually like finding genuinely amusing as well. Am I okay?
Yeah, maybe you need some therapy. That's what we're all learning here.
Yeah, you're being controlled by the bad witch, Hayley.
Yeah, I'm coming around to George. Like, what is happening over the course of this? We're only halfway through the question arcs. Like, we're a quarter of the way through the whole story. I'm just so upside down and back to front on this, and I think that might even be what I said in the social media post about this look, because what in the world?
Yeah, and that's definitely the way episode 2 felt to a lot of people. It's a very harsh and confusing episode. It's got a lot of just stuff that's really hard to place, and it really is in your face with a lot of things.
Yeah.
It's simultaneously trying to beat you down with some of the stuff it's saying, and other times you're just kind of left wondering, what is that supposed to mean? What's going on?
I really didn't think going into this, and this is maybe me being completely stupid, with it calling them question arcs and answers arc, I didn't think that literally every moment of one of the first 4 episodes would produce a new question. I just feel like I'm flooded with questions, even more so at the end of episode 2 than I was at the end of episode 1. So while I'm looking forward to episode 3 and 4, I'm also really not, and I wonder if I need to take a vacation once I finish reading each one, just to let my brain reset.
Ooh, I know this lovely little island off the coast in Japan.
Has it got an evil appetite?
Used to.
Yeah, I think episode 3 will be good for that, because as I said previously, episode 3 was kind of rewritten to be more helpful to readers, so I think we're going to get some nice tools in our tool belt in terms of trying to understand what the story is trying to do here.
At this point, I almost don't want them. Like, just bring on the chaos. I want the original cut, please.
Yeah, I would love to know what that is.
Yeah, because apparently it's supposed to be even harsher. It was supposed to be even harder to understand. So,
man, this is our, like, what's the word? What's the word I'm looking for? Like,
10th podcast.
No. When we...
Wait, no,
so
it's not even that.
It's like a thing that we do to punish ourselves.
Oh, penitence?
As gamers, right? Like, we like the questions. We want to figure out more shit. So, like, give me the hard mode, please. I want to conquer it.
That's why the middle of a story is often the most interesting, right? Like, Empire Strikes Back will always be a better film than Return of the Jedi for a lot of people, because the questions and the anticipation and what can be is the mystery. Our imagination is more powerful and satisfying than giving a satisfying ending, and no one understands that in the same way as gamers and writers. We're not writers, but we are gamers, and we've read a lot of stories. Between the three of us.
I mean, I have been a writer, but not professionally. So let's say that none of my writing is any good. But
that's exactly what every writer says, though. Wow, she is a writer.
Oh dear. Yeah. Oh man. Yeah. Can we get hard mode? Like, can we reach out to him and be like, bro, I'll pay.
It's for our podcast. Come on, man.
Yeah.
We won't tell anyone.
Yeah. But I will say that even the answers, even once we get to the answer arcs, nothing is ever Don't
say that. I don't want to know what you're gonna. Don't finish that sentence.
Yeah.
And like I said, I think the game is going to be done in a way where it's ambiguous. It's up to the reader how you want to interpret it. I'm okay with that.
I'm just saying, if you like questions, you will be happy.
Okay. Yeah, I don't get as mad as other people at, like when a TV show doesn't wrap up fully and you're left with like, well, what's happening with this person? And they didn't tie up that arc. Like, that doesn't bother me too much so long as...
So we need this game to end with a where are they now and just stills of every character.
Oh, isn't that just like skeletons? Like, I'm pretty convinced. I'm pretty convinced they all died in episode 1 and that's it. And this is just some training ground for Battler now. I think I said that already.
You did, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wait. Oh, that was the bit that was cut.
Oh, was that part of the cut bit? It might have been,
Was that the bit that we missed?
Well, it was the bit that Kyle had to edit around.
Yeah.
I have been thinking about that a lot, though.
I'm convinced.
It's a good theory. It's definitely on my list of theories that we'll get back to at some point to talk about.
Oh, yeah. Validation.
Kyle said he's only taken note of the theories that are worth talking about, you know?
Does that hurt? Have you completely shifted away from sci-fi, Capelli?
No. But until we get any evidence that points back at it, like, there's no point in discussing it. So I think if we see no hint of it by the end of episode 4, then I'll accept it's not a sci-fi one. But I think it could be an engaging twist that could explain a lot and still be on theme.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I think, but the way you're defining sci-fi, I see where you're coming from.
Yeah, it's a sci-fi like Star Wars is a sci-fi. It's straight up fantasy.
Yeah, well, I mean, Star Wars is a sci-fi, like, through and through if you take out the Force and adding in the Force.
What are you talking about? The Force is a bunch of microscopic organisms that live inside of your bloodstream. That explains everything. I don't think we need to go any further.
That's true. Pure sci-fi.
Okay.
We're done.
Yep. All right. Color me corrected.
The midichlorian gambit.
Those are words I don't understand. I understand a gambit. I don't know what you said.
Midichlorian is the name of the microscopic bacteria that's explained in episode 1.
It's one of the reasons why people hate the prequels is because...
What a bad scene.
Yeah.
Oh, see, I've only watched those once, so there's no way that's
a good thing to do. I agree.
Yeah.
They're worth watching if only to understand the memes.
Yeah,
that's true. There's a lot of good memes.
I watched them under duress after meeting Adam.
They're better than the new trilogy. I'll say that.
This is where we find out that Adam's like really big into the Star Wars prequels.
No, he's not at all. But he's like, you have to watch them. I'm like, everybody says I really don't, and I've seen all the others a couple times. Like,
to have a good grasp on pop culture is something you can't ignore.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Alrighty.
Becca is ready.
Yes.
Becca is ready. Let's get her in here right in time for favorite characters, theories, themes, suspects.
Yeah, so we just finished up the plot summary. So impeccable timing because you can give your overall thoughts on episode 2. Impeccable timing. Please, that needs to stay in, Kyle.
We'll see.
But like I said it first, not Capelli. Okay.
I didn't. I was muted. We only have a recording of you saying it.
Yes.
And then I'll put in some cricket noises.
Great. Well, I just finished. I'm technically like 2 videos behind. I finished video 32 of the playlist, and I was supposed to finish video 34, so I'm 2 videos technically behind. The video I just finished ended with Rosa accusing Battler basically and like chasing him out of the parlor, and then there was a very short...
you have so much.
Yes, you missed the best parts.
Dude, I know.
But Becca has seen the anime, so...
I have a very, very long time ago. My plan, honestly, is to watch some of the anime up to the point where we are so that I can like compare and contrast. Clearly, I didn't have the time for this episode, but next episode, if there's anything interesting in the anime, I will definitely let y'all know. But right now...
It has a killer opening.
The opening music I listen to like on the reg. I'm not joking.
I haven't watched it. I'm feeling like I need to.
It's very grandiose. Yeah.
It's good. It's good.
I will say, when I watched it as a younger person, I did not have as many
Oh,
qualms with like the animation style as I do now.
Oh no.
But
Yeah,
Is
it's not
there
great.
lots of jiggling?
it's not great, but it's fine. No, yes,
No.
but like
It was cheaply made, I would say.
it's cheaply made. You can see all
okay.
of the seams, is what I would say. Yeah, but yeah, it ended with Rosa chasing Battler out of the parlor, and then there was a short scene in Kinzo's study, which finally, I was like dying to get back to Kinzo and the little golden butterfly that snuck in there and be like, what's going on here? And the short scene that ended that video with Kinzo was him being like, Beatrice, I love you. I want to play chess with you again. I just want to see your smile. So, yeah, the it's so funny too because I was reading your synopsis and I was like, okay, I saw this, I saw this, and then the last 2 paragraphs are the only things that I haven't watched yet, and so much happens.
Yes.
It's all the crazy witch stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, you need to watch it. You really do, because it goes into, man, it gets real.
Yeah, it's got the really good horror writing. It's really solid.
Yeah, the way that they do the descriptions of like the murder scenes is really well done because they don't show them, obviously. They just show like, the blood spatter or whatever over a generic slide. And so all you have are the words, and it's really evocative.
All right, so Capelli, what are your favorite and least favorite characters now that we finished episode 2?
Okay, so I definitely have some shifting. I think my top character has not changed. It is still Beatrice.
Okay.
It might just be the voice actor doing a fantastic job. But she's such a terrifying and engaging villain. Just like evil to the core, and the depths of her depravity only get deeper and deeper the more we see of her, which is just great. That evil laugh is so good. And just every time she's on screen, it's just such a treat, such a delight. It always adds more to the scene. It's like always very tense with what's going to happen. I like that a lot. So Beatrice is still top of my list. Then I got Genji, which is a new one for me. I'm still very suspicious of him, but he's been so reassuring and capable and very smart. And like while he knows something that he shouldn't, he's not ever been like, it's never felt like he's like lording that over anybody. I kind of get that with Kumasawa, where she's like, hee, I know things. I don't care. He's just a very cool, very interesting character. I want to know more about him. And we know very little of like our main cast of 17. He's one of the people we know the least about. So of those people, he's the coolest one.
Yeah, all I really know is that he was a friend of Kinzo's. Yeah, we don't really know too much about his history at all.
And now he's furniture. And then next is Shannon, who went a big shift from where she sat for me at the end of chapter 1 to where she is now.
Oh yeah.
Her scene here at the end of chapter 2 really sold a lot for me. Just like tangibly standing up to Beatrice in a very badass way, and just defying everything that she was saying with like who she is as a person. I loved that. I feel that her love for George is very palpable. Like, it's the relationship that I buy the most. A little less so George's feelings to her, but I think we will get those scenes, and he'll get that chance. I think once he becomes furniture, he's like, oh, we're both furniture. Now we can be together, and no one can say anything. But yeah, I had to bump Kinzo out of the top 3. Not because I dislike him, but because bro just hasn't done much.
Yeah, and to be fair, this is like the episode where he's lived the longest, weirdly.
Yeah. Well, he spent the whole friggin' time just locked up in his study.
Yeah, he was taking a nap for most of it.
I'm waiting to see like who gets him out and how, and have him stick around. Anyway, bottom 3, we've talked about Rosa a lot, right? So 2 chapters we've had one of the parents stick around for a while. Where Natsui was like a very fierce lion protecting her cubs in chapter 1. Rosa was much more paranoid, quicker to jump to blame and conclusions and slap around her kid. And just, I haven't seen her show an ounce of kindness, maybe a little accountability at the very end there. But like Natsui had some real remorse for how she acted and everything. So just to compare the two situations there, I just don't really enjoy Rosa on screen. Next is the Seven Sisters of Purgatory. Right, to me right now they're just a waifu trope. Their bios and the bios imply they'll be fleshed out. But every time they arrive and talk, it's just kind of not entertaining and cringy, and just ugh. It's an unpalatable taste in my mouth when they're around and on screen. And the little bit of reading I've done in the chapter 3...
It's probably the taste of blood.
Yeah. The little bit of reading I've done in the chapter 3 does not change that. And then Maria I put in there. I almost didn't put a third person into my bottom 3. But you mentioned this earlier, Kyle. Again, she just doesn't do much in this chapter. Mm-hmm. She's just kind of there. She really shifts between creepy kid and just adding paranoia to the scene of, Beatrice is still around. It's just I got enough of this in chapter 1. I want something new from her. I know we'll get it. But right now, just in chapter 2, just did not enjoy her character being around.
Ooh, okay.
All right.
So, let's start with my bottom 3, okay, which Battler is in. He just annoys me. It's just kind of, he's just classic 17-year-old boy, I suppose. Maybe I'm being too mean on him, but he's just so dense and obtuse and thinks he knows everything, and he's actually knows nothing. And that really bugs me. He is,
I mean, canonically, he's incompetent.
Incompetent.
By the red.
That is true. I've heard this. Many people are saying
he is completely incompetent. I'm actually... I hadn't even considered the Seven Sisters as a character. But obviously they are.
Yeah, they're so one note. It's really hard to...
Again, reading into chapter 3, they start having some more dialogue, which kind of clues me into them, actually as characters, not just tools for her to use as murder.
This is why you don't read chapter 3.
Reading ahead, don't do it, guys.
This is why they're mostly plot devices at this point.
Right.
We've been to.
Yeah, so I didn't even consider them.
But just again, even reading the biographies at the end of chapter 2, it tells you what each of them where they kind of sit in the social standing with each other and stuff like that. So that's that whole relationship dynamic is spelled out. And reading that, I don't like it.
So actually, before I move on, Capelli, your bottom 3, was that the very bottom to third from bottom, or the other way around? So is Rosa the very bottom and Maria's third from bottom?
Rosa's the very bottom.
Okay, I'm doing mine the other way around. So Battler is third from bottom. George is second from bottom. Although I have, over the course of this last hour, started to realise that I might feel a little bit sorry for George. I hate myself for saying it. It's still... What a wet blanket. Maybe I just really don't like young men. This is... Maybe. Oh my god. What's that? Am I a misandrist? What's happened? Am I ageist and misandrist?
To be fair, teenage boys are very frustrating.
Oh, for real. Man. I mean, well, George isn't a teenager, but, he's not.
Close enough.
He's young, so...
Yeah.
Yeah, just pretty much for the same reasons as Battler. He just has this, and he probably doesn't think he has it, because I think he probably oh, right, let me explain myself better with actual words rather than noises. He comes across as though he thinks that he knows that he is wise. He is not. He has that whole... It almost feels smog to me in a way.
But his top grades,
yes.
Hayley, you're not even thinking about his top grades.
I have experienced so much more of life than you young children. I know everything and what it is like to be in a romantic relationship with as an adult.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Do you have any siblings or cousins?
I have 4 siblings and about 25 cousins, maybe 30 cousins.
Where do you rank as far as age wise compared to the rest of them?
Siblings, I'm the eldest.
Yeah, that okay.
We're all very
That
close
tracks.
in age, though, so we all went through our teenage angst stage at the same time, which I'm sure was excellent for my mother, who raised us on her own. So, yeah, my cousins, I am probably in the 75th percentile, oldest, I reckon.
Okay.
Yeah, I think so, thereabouts.
All right, I have no follow-up comments.
Yeah, yeah, sorry.
I was gonna say, like, that is the folly of youth, though, is to think you know everything when in reality you know nothing.
I know. That's why I kind of started this saying, like, I'm being mean.
The whole thing of being the oldest sibling and the oldest cousin is to the younger ones, you do have all that wisdom and you do have all that knowledge, even if it's just a year or two gap. I remember how I was with my brother and everything. That's just, So when you tell that kid, you are possibly the head of this family and all these servants are underneath you, it breeds it, right? Doesn't mean you shouldn't dislike it. It's just that's where they grew up around.
Yeah. Oh, I know where it comes from. Absolutely.
But it's still interesting to me, like, throughout the whole scene with them going to the chapel to get Natsui's key and everything, that they're like, oh, and the servants were just besotted with how much of a leader he was. And it's like, that's a lot of tell, not show, because I didn't feel that. That was very much like, yes, these are simply logical connections and things to make, and to say, we should go do this. Oh, wow, he's 22 and a heartthrob. Or whatever his age is.
23, I think, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm being very unfair on young people. I'm sorry. I'm about to turn 40, so I'm just in that phase of my life where, I'm really leaning into old hag. And sorry about it. I don't actually feel that way about young people. They're some of my favorite people, truly. That's what an old hag would say. So onto my bottom.
She'd love to have you for dinner.
Is Rosa, obviously, because she has no redeeming qualities whatsoever. The damage she's doing to that kid, us being able to see it in real time. Yes, I'm sure they have all got shitty parents because of who they are as a family. But Rosa just borderline unforgivable for me. So she stays at the bottom. All right.
Would you probably put Kinzo at the bottom of your list if we had more scenes of him beating his kids?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Yeah. Assuming that happened. I mean, it alludes to that, but we haven't.
Though they straight up say that
he
beat them.
Right. Yes, because in the Rosa aftermath stuff that we get about their childhood, right? And how she had to balance the relationship between her siblings and her father. Yeah, okay. Yeah, probably. I don't know. I don't feel strongly enough about Kinzo right now. But I do suspect I will hate him.
We will have a lot to talk about next episode.
So, top 3 in third place, it's Kyrie. I just love her. I don't know. We don't see enough of her, but I just get this. A lot of this is gut feelings, right? I'm not basing it on anything like Capelli does. This is just how I feel. So, that
is a valid lens to view any story.
Yeah.
Especially Umineko, honestly.
Yeah. I just like her. I just think that when she opens her mouth, it's usually something that I'm interested in listening to. Also, I really like her outfit.
Yeah, it's just cool. She's just cool.
And her hair color and her haircut.
Objectively the coolest character in the game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. But I didn't feel like that was enough to put her at the top, just being cool.
Yeah. She gets a few good moments in this episode, like when she's the one that sees Beatrice, and then they're all like talking about like, what does it mean that this person calling himself Beatrice is here for the inheritance? And she's like, calm down. Like, she literally cannot do anything. Just fucking play it by ear, and we'll see what happens. And so everyone, like even the adults are like, Kyrie, please help us. We're helpless little babies.
Yes.
Just a very cool, level-headed approach.
Yeah, she's awesome.
We don't have any real-world know-how. Tell us how to handle this situation.
Yeah.
What's it like to do your own grocery shopping, Kyrie?
We only know how to borrow money. And we suck at that too, apparently.
Yeah.
Kyrie, my checkbook, it needs balancing. One of the reasons I'm so excited to get more Rudolph is just to be like, he's got to be fucking cool for Kyrie to stick around, right?
Mm-hmm.
One would hope.
What if she just got really bad taste in men?
I mean, that's absolutely possible. That's like her one weakness.
Yeah,
Listen, I know a lot of cool girls with bad taste in men. It's possible. And Battler hates his dad. So, like, I don't know.
Not anymore.
Hopefully, I am very much holding out hope that Rudolph has redeeming qualities because I want to believe that Kyrie has a good head on her shoulders.
Yeah.
Rudolph hasn't done anything for me to dislike him.
Mm-hmm.
Like since the story started. Like his past, yes, but since like he's shown up on scene, dude's been pretty cool.
Yeah, that's fair. Maybe he's done a lot of work like on himself, and now as an adult he's actually all right. But I mean, to his siblings, it sounds like he was a menace, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so my top two are kind of I switched these around a couple times, which is remarkable that I spelled them both correctly. I don't know which order to put them in, or if they're just tied for second right now, is Beatrice and Berncastle. And I couldn't say why Berncastle is up there with Beatrice. Again, it's just a feeling. It's
Just
a
vibes.
feeling. Yeah. There's something about her sort of quiet, like she's a new witch basically compared to the others. I don't know. I think there's something about her that we're gonna find out, and I'm gonna really enjoy. So she's kind of up there right now, but maybe the reason is because I'm really interested in her character and her backstory, and that means that I need to go and read the first one.
Yep.
With all the time we have.
Yeah, right.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously Beatrice is just a phenomenon, like just amazing. I can't even articulate it properly. I don't know. Oh, she's horrible. She is awful. The enjoyment that she gets from other people's pain is absolutely despicable, and yet I love it. I just really do. She really owns it. It's I hope to be her in my old hag face.
I respect it.
I like that you and I share a favorite and least favorite.
I mean, it's clearly the character that the author loves the most as well. It's the one he puts the most work into.
You need to. You can split up the protagonist amongst 17 plus people.
Yeah.
And the villain is one.
Yeah.
You gotta make that character rock solid.
Yeah, villains are always the coolest, aren't they? Especially when I don't know, there's something believable. When there's something believable about them, like where you can understand why she is the way she is. Like, yeah, I'd be fucking bored if I'd lived 1,000 years.
We see a lot of hints at like her pain and her backstory throughout this episode a lot too.
We really do. I am sure she has been burned multiple times by people.
What I really love about Beatrice specifically is that like her crimes and all of her actions are very inhuman, but the motivations for her doing them are very human. Like she's been hurt, she's been trapped, she's been spurned, whatever. Very human reactions to like lash out against all of that and retaliate. Even though
all of her comments about how like humans don't keep their promises. You know, I've never lied. I keep my word.
Yeah.
Unprompted too. She had to butt in to be like, man, fuck humans. Fuck humans and their promises. I keep my promises. Beatrice, no one asked. What do you...
Was that the one where she was just like in Battler's head? And I was like, where did she come from? Like, what? This was not relevant to you. But it was.
Everything is about Beatrice. Oh my god. Okay, I have to do this on the fly because I have not prepared clearly. But okay. Least favorite. Do I have any least favorites? I feel like this is always the hardest part because it's like even the people I hate I find interesting compelling in this series.
Mm-hmm.
So it's hard to name least favorites. Because even Goda this episode, like, impressed me a little bit.
Goda rocked this episode, yeah.
Yeah, Goda was awesome this episode. He, like, was so true to himself and what he saw and to the people that he was with. And then I was like, oh, you are altruistic. I kind of care about you. I mean, Maria's kind of always in the bottom 3 so far. Just because I feel like my reasoning is similar to Capelli's, where it's just, I don't know what she's adding. She is super creepy. She is clearly very important, like, in terms of being, like, a narrative linchpin. But it is, I don't know, it's interesting to me that the authors decided to make one of the most easily hateable characters in the entire series, like, the only child. She kind of hasn't grown into any kind of purpose yet, and I'm interested to see how her character develops and, like, what she becomes. I don't know. I feel like there's something growing there with her, but I'm interested to see how that develops. But right now, she's just kind of like, she's a little bit of a plot device akin to the Seven Sisters, where she's just like this thing that can tell you what the witches are doing and what they want. And she's creepy. Yeah, I don't know. I don't have any other strong contenders for least favorite characters, because even with Rosa being kind of crazy, I understand her motivations for behaving the way she has in this episode. Especially being the baby of the family like Maria is. It's interesting to start drawing parallels between her and Maria and their behavior and the way that they are mostly compliant until they're not. Like, Maria's the baby of the family until some weird shit happens, and then she turns creepy and becomes, like, witch scholar Maria, and starts explaining to them how they're all stupid and how they've missed these very obvious symbols and everything that's going on around them. And Rosa, up until a certain point, Battler thinks is, like, his sweet, gentle aunt who's the baby of the family, until all of her older siblings die. She gets a gun, and then she becomes Tyrant Rosa. And you're like, whoa, bitch, slow down. What are you doing? Are you okay? But I feel like there's a lot with Rosa and Maria going on beneath the surface that I'm interested to find out more about. And I still constantly have the question in my mind about Maria's father, whether or not that will be important later. It's just something I think about, like, why he's never mentioned or brought up. I feel like so much of this series is looking in the gaps of what is not being said, especially in the dialogue between Beatrice and Battler, where Battler has to kind of constantly find these loopholes to get around her reasoning. It's so much about what's not being said or not being touched on. So I get curious when we never talk about her father, even if he never ends up being important.
That's some really interesting stuff you've said in there. I hadn't noticed the parallels between Maria and Rosa, but you're dead on. That's very accurate.
It's what led me to my theory that Rosa's interacted with Beatrice as a child herself, is because I do see those connections between the two.
Yeah.
Right.
They're so similar.
And yet, you put Maria in your bottom 3, but not Rosa.
I mean, I would put...
Even though you're compelled by their interactions and their story.
I would put both of them in my bottom 3, I guess.
Okay.
But I don't have a strong bottom 3. That's the thing, is I still find both of them very interesting.
Yeah. You can have a soggy bottom. It'll be fine.
Soggy bottom. Thank you, Mary Berry. Top 3, especially after reading this most recent version, this is out of order. I don't have a specific order for these, just general top 3. Genji, what a badass. Genji is such a mensch. Like, he is so focused on duty and honor and purpose. I don't know. And the fact that he can throw a knife and pin a golden butterfly to the wall while he's not even looking because he's still looking at the chessboard that's in front of him, that's some baller ass shit. I don't know how else to describe it. Like
Magical,
potentially. That is a good point. I should never discount anyone having magical abilities in this series.
Especially Kinzo's furniture, yeah.
Especially Kinzo's furniture. Which I guess brings me to another one. Shannon's up there still.
Oh yeah, great episode for Shannon.
Great episode for Shannon. Her barrier while she's protecting her and George and turning it back around on Beatrice is the best kind of revenge that she could get. Mm-hmm. After knowing that she's been so thoroughly, like, kind of fucked by the deal that she made. Really love that for her. I also just love that she has faith in something that is so completely outside of Beatrice's games in terms of, like, her love for George and her belief in having a life with him. I don't know. I care so much about Sayo the idealist because no one in this game has that kind of vision, I guess, outside of her. Like, everyone has motivations and desires and things that they're gunning for, but Sayo is the one where she's like, I'm envisioning a life and I am taking action to make this life a reality, even if it ends up being detrimental to me. And I don't know, there's something so much that I want to believe in with her. I love Shannon a lot. And then clearly Beatrice. Mm-hmm. We're all on the same page with Beatrice. What a gal. Like, I don't know. I might sell my soul and my entire family's lives for her.
Man, I wish Ben was here. Does he like her? I don't know. I want to hear a dissenting opinion about her.
Listen, I've been ride or die from Beatrice since day one, so like this is not surprising at all. But she's just so fucking compelling. I love that every time she laughs, it kind of sounds like the boos from a Super Mario game. Like
yeah. Uh-huh.
That little sound effect. Yeah, I don't know. She's just great. I love her recklessness because even I haven't watched the Witch's Tea Party part yet, but the notes that you had Kyle say that Bergen Castle and Lambda Delta tell Battler, like, Beatrice doesn't always make the smartest move, which I think is really interesting because it implies that she has desire and goals outside of just winning, and that there's a part of her that is impulsive, and there's so much going on there. Like, she's revealed a good amount about herself, but she still holds so much back, and I can tell that there's just still so much to uncover there because clearly the authors loved her and decided to give her a lot of stuff to work with. So I'm excited for more of that to be revealed the further we go into this whole mystery.
Yeah.
You know, you're seeing her being impulsive, and you don't have to put this in the episode, especially if you guys don't consent to this, but I think we all have ADHD. Do we like her because she's just like mad chaos and we get it?
Maybe.
I'm fine with putting this in the episode. I definitely have ADHD. I just like her because she's hot and evil.
Yeah, if you like hot evil ladies, you are eating well in this episode.
And our community chat, I was like, I'm into powerful women, but the sadism, I don't know if that gets to me. And people are like,
Didn't somebody say, oh well, more for me?
Yeah. I love competence, and she certainly is. I think that's what draws me into her.
Yeah, that's definitely the big piece of it, is that she very clearly takes pride in the fact that she is good at what she does, and she loves lording that over Battler, which is like, I love an egotistical person when they earn it. So it's like, the fact that she is so good allows me to be like, oh, you're so full of yourself, but like, I can't really argue because, yeah, you're kind of killing it. You're kind of amazing. Damn it.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's see. On the Discord, it was Arkzal who said, "Dude, Beatrice is one kinky witch."
She is, and that's why we love her.
True. Oh, I can't wait for you to read the next one.
Me neither.
This is a seed. It's so good.
But yeah, that's where I'm at right now. So I guess faves are Beatrice, Sayo, and Genji. And then if I have to name least faves, Rosa and Maria right now.
Let's go through some of the community comments and theories that we've collected. We touched on some of them as we came up, but I want to make sure we go through some of these that we haven't touched on yet. One of our regulars in the Discord, Ash, is talking about how Beatrice seemed to change a lot between, once Shannon started to become her friend. I was wondering if perhaps Beatrice is affected by people's perceptions of her.
It's Tinkerbell.
I think so.
I think it's interesting. With Shannon in particular, it's hard to say because Shannon was definitely being duped, I guess. It's unclear, right? How much of the friendship between Beatrice and Shannon and Canon, like what all is real. Because definitely, she seems very friendly with Shannon, and then when Canon talks to her later, she's like, I was tricking you all along. I'm really just trying to ruin your relationships.
I think we can analyze when she appears, right? Which is when someone is at the portrait for the first time, like we're looking to speak to her. The fact that we touched on this already, the fact that it seems that people need to acknowledge her as a witch before she can enact the six sacrifices. Something about love is definitely in there. Why she is so fascinated with Battler needing to prove that she exists, I think is double-sided. She enjoys the cat and mouse game, and that, like with Rosa saying that you exist, she was exultant. She is becoming more powerful, I think, because more people are starting to believe in her.
I would say about Beatrice, I think I'm not so sure that people's perceptions of her change her behavior, because while I might have believed that like 3 weeks ago, after her interaction with Shannon on the beach where they seemed to have like a real moment together, I still think that moment was genuine, but I don't think it influences Beatrice's long-term goals and needs. And I think Shannon is a means to an end for her. I think, clearly, as we saw in the confrontation with her and George in this most recent episode, where Shannon throws up the barrier and Beatrice and her have that kind of showdown, Shannon really gets under Beatrice's skin, and Beatrice is really just trying to get rid of them. They are a means to an end for her. Ultimately, she might have fond feelings for Shannon, but that doesn't change the fact that she still needs a certain number of sacrifices and that she is going to do what she's going to do. So I think she's really good at play acting. I think Beatrice is really good at play acting, and I think she also has genuine moments where you kind of slip past that a little bit. You see under her mask. Because there's the part of me that wants to think that scene with her and Shannon on the beach before everyone started dying in this episode was really genuine. But ultimately, that can't matter to her. It doesn't matter. She still has to kill Shannon.
Right.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it probably was genuine, but whatever. It's just another piece on the game board.
Yeah.
I'm gonna steal from your note here and just add in, because I think it's relevant here. Jules saying the 6 that die initially must believe in Beatrice's magic, or it doesn't kill them.
We've got several things talking about the speculation about how Beatrice's magic works, and that's definitely one of them.
Yeah. And I think we've all kind of been saying that as well. So, Jules, we agree wholeheartedly.
Yeah, another theory that Jules has is that Beatrice's power is somehow related to predicting outcomes or anticipating moves, kind of like in a chess-like way. That's the reason why she's able to seem like she's in Balor's head, and like the things on the game board seem to go according to her whims, is because she's able to like chess out the entire game state in that way.
Oh, interesting. Ooh.
I think I really like that idea because it would explain some of her recklessness as well. Like, again, because Lambda Delta and Burn Castle say, like, she doesn't always make the wisest move. It's like, well, she doesn't need to. If she can anticipate what she thinks that you're going to do, she can just do whatever would be most advantageous, even if it's not the safest move.
Also, when they get to the mirror, George and Shannon, and she says, one move too slow.
Yes, that line is amazing.
Oh my god, you're right. It adds to the what if she just sees endless possibilities? Like she sees she's an endless witch, not just because she can repeat things, but because she can see the endless possibilities.
The endless branching out.
Yeah. Love it.
Yeah.
Our community is great.
Gilliank, or Gilliank7760 on YouTube, says that I'm here for the Kumasawa culprit theory, and the fact that she doesn't get a lot of attention even while she's alive does sort of lend itself to that. Someone on a different read-through pointed out that Rosa's I'd become a demon to protect Maria line is nearly identical to Natsui's line from episode 1, but coming from Rosa, it's not nearly as comforting. Where Rosa struggles to be an adult is really interesting. Even in episode 1, she makes a comment about how she feels she is too immature to be a mother. She's absolutely correct on this point, and her siblings ridicule her for it. She has no support, and she has to keep doubling down on whatever actions she takes as the correct action because any uncertainty she voices gets mocked.
Amazing.
Oh, that's such a good analysis. That's such a good analysis.
I think, is that Jillian K? Or do you think it
Could
is?
be. I don't know. What are you going to speculate about? You're going to try and dox this person?
No,
they were born in 7760. I'm closing in.
No, yeah.
No, yeah, I love it. Also, yes, thank you for being with me on the Kumasawa done it. Like, that's my one line in my notes. And I can't articulate why, but she did it.
We also got some comments about Maria using her own name as her pronouns. Apparently, according to Jules Ash and Heath1474 on YouTube, apparently that's fairly normal in Japanese for children to use their name as their own pronouns. So,
but children at what age, right? Because like if that's normal for a 5-year-old, but not so normal for a 9-year-old, then that's playing into the more like Maria is really struggling to grow up past that milestone.
Yeah, I mean, either way, thank you all for saying that, because I had no clue and I was really wondering why it was the way it was, as you heard. So thank you for responding to that.
Yeah, 'cause in English that sounds really ominous, right?
Yeah, it really does. Like a kid walking around going, Can Hayley have a cookie, please? Like, what? What for?
Yeah.
What are you going to do with it?
Right, imagining a 10-year-old say that versus a 5-year-old is much more like raises that red flag alarm.
Yeah.
We also got a comment from Mr. Zwangzig on the Discord, and they said...
Or is it Mrs. Zwanzig?
Could be. Miss with a Z.
Mrs. Zwanzig. Oh, man. You guys, these names, I love them.
Solving all your puzzles.
Yeah, give us more puzzles in your usernames, please.
Yeah, I mean, usernames are kind of a puzzle. Like, you can always, you can tell something about someone's username. You can deduce a lot about who they were when they were 12.
Oh, no.
That's definitely my email for you.
Yeah. Mr. Zwanzig. Somehow I found myself here despite thinking Umineko wasn't very good after reading it last year. I suppose you don't finish a story this long and this weird without getting at least a little obsessed with it, whether you like it or not. And your coverage of it has been quite entertaining so far. So, thank you very much. That means a lot to know that you're sticking with us and enjoying us talking about it. So,
even though you didn't like it, so I guess that means that we are your compelling characters this time.
Yeah, exactly.
That's it.
Yeah,
It's good to hear that you didn't enjoy it and yet you're still engaging with it because it has you that fascinated. Or is that bad to hear? I don't know, maybe I will need a vacation for real.
well, we'll see. I mean, I think a lot of the book clubby kind of podcast nature is gonna it's a very compelling way to read this story, especially. So hopefully this is making you think about different parts of the story in ways you hadn't before, and that itself I think is enjoyable, even if you don't necessarily like the story itself. So.
Yeah, this is something I definitely would not enjoy as much reading it without having people to talk to about it, because it is one of those things where it's like, you need different perspectives in order to make it interesting, because it is so focused on like how things are happening and who can think about things in a certain way, that you need multiple people thinking about it all in different ways to come together and be like, okay, so what is actually going on here? And that's why I'm so glad to have you guys, because even watching the anime 10 years ago, I was like, what the fuck? I'm having a good time, but like, what the fuck?
Yeah, that's very much how I felt when I first watched it as well. It was like, there's something compelling here. This is not the way to express whatever this is. Like, there is something better here than what is being expressed currently via this anime. But you can tell there was something really interesting in there.
Yes. And I will say something else that I noticed just reading along with the game in this most recent read through is that, like, what is both annoying and also like understandable and interesting and compelling about the series is that something I find both funny, but also it's a thought process. So like, I get why it's necessary, is that Battler always comes back around to facts after considering every single other possible ridiculous possibility, even if there's no way it could be true. He tries to think through things so many different ways, and then he'll literally come back to the point where he's like, or it could be exactly what the servants said it was, and that it's just unexplainable.
Yes.
And it's like,
Battler is so circular in his logic in this episode.
Oh, fucking idiot.
As we kind of talk about characters, this is definitely I would say a low point for Battler as a character. Like, if I was giving a top 3 and bottom 3, I would say, like, on a per episode basis, who like gained the most and lost the most. Battler, I think, loses a lot in this episode. In terms of his characterization. He has very circular reasoning. He gives up really easily. He has like this really arbitrary decision, like, well, I'm going to just trust all the servants and all the family. They can never commit a murder. It's definitely someone else. And as Beatrice says, like, I'm not even making mysteries at this point. Like, you could just point at Rosa and say she did it and you'd win, but you can't do that, can you? And that's what breaks him. So that part is compelling, but like it's hard to get through it because you're just like, okay, Battler's given up again.
Here's the thing about his circular reasoning, though, is that this is not the first time we've seen it. This is the way he's been behaving the whole time, is that, like, people will literally tell him a fact that he has to consider from every single side because he wasn't physically there. Because there is this element of, like, it's a murder mystery. You can't trust anyone. So I understand the impetus that he has to be like, well, what is every other single possibility for this? And he has to run through all of them and discredit all of them before he can finally come back around to being like, well, maybe it is exactly what they said, and I should have just believed them from the beginning, which is both silly, but also like, I get it. But I definitely agree with you. Like, he's so at a low point in terms of like Beatrice just beating him down and him being like, I'm kind of giving up. I don't know what else to do because I don't want to accuse anyone. So, yeah.
I'm really looking forward to, as we move forward, especially when it comes to some of the new lenses we're looking at. I want to talk about some of the themes of the story, different ways we can kind of look at what's happening, because themes are often a way to look at a story and divine truth from it, right? You can look at a story through a bunch of different ways and uncover a lot. And in this one, we've got a lot of really interesting new themes that have kind of come up that I think are worth discussing. So one of the big ones for this episode was love, and then we get particularly with the contrast with the way that Beatrice kind of conflates that with sex, and how she like belittles Shannon's inability to consummate her marriage with George, and how she talks about how like, oh, men are just like flies trying to, you know, get something from you. Clearly really bitter, really hurt. And so it's really interesting to kind of look at where is that coming from? How does that characterize her? Because the story does seem to go through a lot of length to expound on George and Shannon's love, Jessica and Kanon's love, and how it gives us very different views of them. Like, for example, with the Kanon and Jessica talks about how you can create a different version of yourself to be free of the bonds that are placed upon you by society. And Kanon can't really get there, right? He's just like, I'm furniture, that's all I am, I cannot become more than that. And it's only when he's dying, he's finally like, no, I do love Jessica, I'm no longer furniture.
What I think is really interesting about that is that for both of them, it's coping mechanisms, but in opposite ways.
Yeah.
Jessica has it as a coping mechanism to escape her role as like the inheritor of the Ushiromiya family. So she needs to create this other persona that she can be at school and be on stage and be with her friends. Whereas Kanon has to double down on his identity as furniture to be like, if I ever step outside of this identity, it's only going to hurt me. So I have to stay within these boundaries. So they're both kind of doing it for the same reason, but they're doing opposite things, which is kind of tragic in its own way.
It's so sad. It is a tragedy. It's so sad. And man, there's so much love through this. We've got love through Kinzo bleating about his love for Beatrice constantly, you know, like.
Right, we get that really interesting speech in his study where he's talking about how, like, I love you, I have these regrets, I know I've wronged you and I want to apologize, but then in the next breath he's like, but also I'm going to control you and never let you escape again.
Motherfucker.
He's caught between these two. Yeah.
He's for me, that's not love. He's obsessed.
He is.
Yeah, definitely. And he's one of the ones that hurt Beatrice, in my opinion.
We've yet to see, but yeah, it leads to.
I must have done. Like, she must be so pissed with him and with all of his offspring, which is why she's enjoying fucking with them so hard.
I think it's why she just straight up kills him in chapter 1.
Yeah, maybe. I wonder if we're going to get like a really long drawn out Kinzo death at some point where she just relishes in every second of it. That would be delightful.
Well, it feels like we would have here in the tea party.
Yeah, it's interesting. She doesn't really seem to have much.
And she walked up to his study and they played chess and she was cordial.
That's true. Well, I think that she loved him at one point. And so maybe she can't get to the point of actually killing him because she did have really strong feelings for him at some point. And he didn't reciprocate and he just wanted her for the gold. And that was it.
Yeah.
And then as time has gone on, his obsession he is mistaking for love.
I think it's going to be a bit more nuanced than that. I think he saw an opportunity to manipulate their love for gain.
Yeah.
And knew enough about her to know that she was not fully predictable. It felt he had to act to get what he wanted. And then now realizes that what he had is better than what he got.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely. That's kind of what I'm saying.
It doesn't hurt that he doesn't love any of his descendants, though. I mean, chapter 1 begins with him picking apart what he dislikes about each of them.
Oh, fuck, yeah.
He's just an old man filled with regret.
Waiting to die alone.
Yes.
I think, as well, I don't think I've said this on the podcast yet, but I've said it in our group chat, that Battler is head over heels in love with Beatrice.
Oh, yeah.
Like, genuinely.
And who can blame him?
And that's kind of why I'm so frustrated with him, because he's so obtuse about his own feelings. He has no idea how he feels about her yet.
He's a teenage boy. It's fine.
Has no idea how he feels about, like, she's this challenge, and I don't know, I don't think it is actually obsession from Battler. I think it probably is genuine feelings unfolding that he hasn't quite realized himself yet.
Yeah. We get a great scene of them kind of having mutual respect in when they're dueling over the Red Truce in the chapel, over the chapel door, right? When she tells him, you can call me Beato.
Yes.
And they have some moments where it's like you can kind of see that there's chemistry there.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can call me Beato, and only her friends call her Beato. So the fact that she offers that to him is a sign of something. And it's clear that she, like, from her end, she's trying to prolong how much time she spends with him.
They're both hot, and I really liked the art where Battler was naked and had a collar on him. It was great.
Yeah, definitely. Wait, what?
You didn't get to see that, yeah. Did you not see? Yeah,
this is
Becca
what
hasn't
I'm
gotten that
saying.
yet.
This is what I'm saying. You need to watch the next episode, like, right now.
Oh my god.
Stop driving tomorrow morning.
Later when I'm finishing this, I'll just like text the group chat and you can put like a screenshot of my reaction as like the episode thumbnail or something. But
I can just go grab the screenshot because it's in my endless screenshot folder for collecting for the making the video. I did not put it in the video because it was not safe for work.
But I think my overall point was that Beato clearly wants to prolong this tete-a-tete she has with Battler for as long as possible, because toward the end of this episode, when he's starting to like give up, but then he gets a second wind to come back and start fighting again, she's like, yes, let's keep this going for as long as you want. Like, she's just here for a good time. And I think the more that Battler fights back, the more interested she is. But also, I don't think Battler has ever had anyone as challenging in his life as he has met with Beatrice. And that's what he finds fascinating about her. So I love that.
Oh yeah, I may have scared Ben for posting that in the chat.
He's done it via the game, no? I thought, so surely he'll have seen this.
Yeah, he's seen it. But...
Yeah. It's delightful. I want a poster on my wall.
It's so good.
The goat heads surrounding them as well.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
all of the Black
amazing.
Phillips.
Yeah, they're fab, aren't they? Yeah, I am really... I think she is genuinely happy to have him around for longer. But I don't know if that is because she particularly likes him, or if I've really leaned into this hard, if she's just needs somebody to replace her, to break her bonds as a witch.
Why do you think she needs to break her bonds? I'm sorry, because I haven't been here for the past couple of episodes, so...
I think that she is, from everything that she said, like, she's bored. She's been doing this for 1,000 years. I think she was hoping that Kinzo would free her with, his love for her, that she thought he loved her, but it turns out he didn't, is, the stuff that Capelli was saying before. Which is why it hurts so much. And she's probably been through this a few times with different people, to get an out, get her own endless rest, or whatever it is that they offer is one of the gifts from the... I think the gifts are for her, actually. I don't think that they're gifts for other people. I think that solving the epitaph is her way out of her duties as an endless witch.
Okay, because that was kind of my question, is like, if she's no longer a witch, what is there for her? But if it is like endless rest,
nothing. Yep. Yeah, I think just list through the themes that we've pulled out as well. We won't talk about them.
Yeah, because I don't think we have time to talk about all these, because we could go into big deep dives on all these different things. And maybe we'll talk some more in the Discord about these later. But some of the themes we kind of pulled out as things that were really interesting ways to look at the story. So yeah, obviously love and sex, furniture versus humans versus witches, obviously mystery versus fantasy, the classic. Western versus Eastern ideology, with the way Kinzo idolizes Western culture, and we've also got like this Shinto shrine, and like the different types of magic gets talked about as an Eastern versus Western kind of thing.
This is where I was planning to go talk like about the gun and what significance it has with somebody carrying that around, taking charge, and how it seems to be futile.
Do you want to talk about that, or do you want to leave that for a Discord thing later?
No. We can talk on Discord about it later. I'm sure I'll mention it plenty of times in future episodes.
Yeah.
Somebody prod Capelli about it.
Generational trauma, of course, is a big one that Hayley is always bringing back up in the conversation because it's obviously...
Sorry.
No, I mean, it's very apt. It's a very good lens to look at stuff because obviously we've got a lot of trauma that is brought about from parent to child here, from Kenzo to his children and the way that affected their relationships with each other, and then the way that they treat their children. We specifically got to focus in on how the Rosa Maria relationship was affected by that, but hopefully we'll get to see more of how the other siblings and their relationships were affected by the way they grew up. And, of course, familial bonds, because we get to see the Rosa Maria family dynamic, but we're really looking forward to seeing more from the Battler Rudolph kind of dynamic, because that's one that we've seen kind of signs that there's a tension there, but also we've noticed that, like, there's a good chance that Rudolph has possibly, redeemed himself somewhat, so it'll be interesting to see more from them, because we haven't seen Rudolph or Kyrie survive the first Twilight, so hopefully maybe in the future we'll see the three of them get to talk in the future, and that'll be very interesting.
And the bonds between the siblings as well.
Yes, the siblings as well.
The very last scene with Rosa and
killer scene.
The feast, like, it's clear that she's very distraught by this, but also it's clear that she doesn't particularly like her siblings, but she is also obviously deeply cares. So.
Yeah, I mean, you don't have to like your siblings to not want to eat a pie with their face wrapped around it, I mean... All right. So yeah, let's jump into some predictions. Where do you think the story's going? What do you think's going to happen next? We've seen 2 episodes of the question arcs. Of course, there's 2 more to go of that, and then there's the 4 answer arcs. Obviously, things changed radically between episode 1 and episode 2. So, what do you think? What do you think's going to happen? What do you think we got?
All right. I really filled out a lot of this, but I think we talked about it a lot at the end of the last podcast, which is that Battler is likely going to get some sort of powers and furniture of his own. Mm-hmm. I could see his half-sister being introduced, or I could see George or Jessica filling that role. Think it would be incredibly fascinating if there was a way to turn other witches into furniture, and he finds a way to make that a threat to Beatrice. The way to get this is to beat Beatrice in some game, the way that we briefly introduced how Burnt Castle got hers. Mm-hmm. And I think Maria will also get this ability, and I think one of the Battler or Maria will defeat the other at some challenge, which is how they get theirs. They could both beat Beatrice, I'm not sure. I could also see Burnt Castle being like, let's play rock, paper, scissors. I'm going to play rock. Like, to get him out of a tight situation. She's like, this is the only way I win, is if I do this. So something like that could happen.
I love that.
We still have not seen Rudolph survive the 6-person sacrifice. I don't think that's going to change in Chapter 3. Right? He knew he was about to die at Chapter 1 right before. It's the last thing we see him say before we find him dead in the shed. Mm-hmm. That makes me think that him surviving will be the most interesting out of the adults. Yeah. And I think there is a power in calling her Beato instead of Beatrice. Right, other witches do it. I think that she's found a way to utilize that to her advantage in some way.
Interesting. So you think it was a trap?
It's very Voldemort, right? Saying his name gives him power and stuff like that. I think there's something. I think there could be something like that, right? Because like her saying him to do this, to call her Beato, comes out of nowhere, in my opinion. And I do feel like it fits the characters. Like we're saying, there's like that mutual respect. It's like, at this point, I must acknowledge that you have some capability. She still says he's incompetent. Mm-hmm. But that's why I think that she's doing that.
My counterpoint to that would be that she doesn't offer it to anyone else. She doesn't offer it to Shannon or Kanon or anyone else who can see her that she might respect. Like, it feels like Genji might be worthy of that as well. But Battler is the only one that has a strong enough rapport with her to be considered even a frenemy.
So then the only other people we know who call her that are the other witches, and maybe this is frenemies. Now a point to Hayley's theory about trying to train him.
Maria calls her Beato as well.
I mean,
baby witch.
Baby witch.
Baby witch.
Baby witches.
Yeah,
I'm on board with that.
Are baby witches like sliders?
Yes. Yes. Magic sandwiches.
Those are all very good. I will definitely take note of them, and we will see if any of that plays out.
That means they're valid, Capelli, or at least interesting. If he's making note.
I made sure to ask him within this last week which ones is he writing down, and he's like, "There's some you guys have gotten spot on. There's some you're very close on. Those are the ones I'm writing." I'm like, "Oh, okay."
I love this. I hope there's a master document, Kyle, that you'll be able to share with us at the end of this, so that we can see which.
I need to update it, because I started at the very beginning, keeping track of a couple things, and then I lost track of it. So I need to go back and update it.
Kyle's just orchestrating like a really elaborate bluff to keep us all in the dark, and what we think he's really making note of, he's not making a note of, and he's secretly taking notes about how dumb we all are.
Oh my god. I also want that document. Like, I don't even care what kind of shit you've said about me. I don't think I have any predictions. I'm so just, like, in for the ride, truly.
Sure.
I don't want to make any. I almost don't want to, like, guess something, and although I've so leaned hard into that theory, I don't want to guess something and it be right and it lose its punch. For me, like, I don't know. That seems so counterintuitive to a book club environment. Maybe I'll get over that for next week. But
hey, you don't have to necessarily predict things to talk about what happened. That's fair.
Yeah. So I guess my prediction is more for the end and what I think is happening overall, which I've already harped on about enough.
Yeah.
But I think in terms of what we're going to see at the beginning of episode 3, I don't know. I've said it's circular a few times. I wonder if that's going to continue and if we're going to get the same October 4th and 5th shenanigans.
The only other thing I really want to talk about is I want to know what the limitations are on how much Beatrice can change a game. Right? So the big thing that changed in this game is how many master keys there were. From there are several to there are exactly 5. So she's altering the past, and what was made created what's stood in place. So, right, like what's going to be different here? Could she change who destroys the shrine? Could she change relationships? You know, what, like, I don't think she's going to, like, make one of the characters we know suddenly not appear, but why not, right? So, I mean, to that end, like, if it's a chess game, she says, "Are your pieces ready?" to Battler at the start. What can he do? So far, it doesn't seem like he changed anything other than tweaking real-time Battler's mindset. So are his pieces just how he watches and reacts and how he just battles her in the metaverse? Like, that's not a chess game.
Yeah.
I want to know more about that.
Yeah, well, hopefully we will see as we continue on into episode 3. All right, well, next week we will be starting episode 3 of Umineko, Banquet of the Golden Witch. And for that, we'll be doing a little bit longer of a stretch of reading, about 4 hours, ending with the line, "Until Rosa was able to regain her calm amidst her ragged breathing, no one was able to speak a word," which is videos 35 through 38 of the YouTube playlist.
Sometimes I wish this was a video podcast because my face just now. What is that line?
It's a great fucking cliffhanger, is what it is.
Yeah. When I was scheduling out for the stopping points for this next chapter, and I was like, "Oh, this is the best one yet. It's so perfect."
Oh my god. So excited.
I mean, yeah, that's exciting.
There's a lot of really good stuff in this episode. I'm really excited for y'all to read it. So, thank you all for joining us, and thank you all at home for watching and talking about this with us and on YouTube and on Discord and stuff. We love hearing y'all's thoughts, and it's been very fun talking with y'all live as we post an episode. People come in and say their theories, and we'll chit chat with them about like, "Oh, I didn't think about that," or "That was interesting." So it's always a great deal of fun. So thank you all for joining us, and I hope you
don't at me for being an old hag.
but do remember to think off meta.
Bye.